Welcome everyone. So we Krishna and we are going to uh, take a session on creating Power Apps custom components. So uh, let's get started. So our massive thanks goes to our sponsors Mohimbi and Rapid Circle, and also thanks to Pune Tech community for organizing the event and giving us the opportunity to share our knowledge. So yep. Yep,
Yeah,
Krishna.
thank you, Pratik. I'm Krishna Yele. I'm a cloud consultant at Rapid Circle and Power Platform enthusiast. I have been with Rapid Circle for last 2 years and got an opportunity to work with a lot of various integration projects. So that's it. Over to you, Pratik.
Yeah, so my introduction, I'm Pratik Kamle. I'm also working as cloud consultant at Rapid Circle. Uh, and also I'm working on Power Platform for past 1 year. So I am also pretty good enthusiast about all the stuff that Power Platform provides. So yeah, you can reach out to our social media handles later on as well. So I think we are good to start. So our agenda for today's session is like we'll be looking into what exactly are Power App components, then why do we need Power App components, then we'll also look into various properties that components provide us. We'll see how we can manage components using component libraries. Then there is also a way of Power Apps code components which we can see how to use them. And also this all will be followed by a demonstration of each and every of the topics that we have here. So we'll be trying to cover from basic to little advanced phase. So we'll gradually take it up. So let's start with the question that few of us might already have, like what exactly is Power Apps components? So Power App components are nothing but basically a reusable building blocks that we can have in our Canvas apps. So there are controls that we can define in and which can be used in our app, and that can be also used in multiple other apps. So there are some custom properties features that are available uh, in components which can enable complex capabilities for us. So that's basically what Power Apps components is. Um, the next question what we can have is like why do we need Power Apps components? So the components basically helps us in building larger apps that have similar control patterns. So this also helps us in reducing the duplication of efforts by eliminating the need of just copy pasting the controls and instead just using the components. And also this basically helps us in improving the overall performance of the app. And components also helps us in creating collaborative development, as the component libraries are with the ones which we can use in which people can collaboratively work on same components and share them across to all the app makers. So how can we do all those things? So there are some properties available with the components. So namely input properties. So we can pass in some input to our components. Then there is output property in which we can get some outputs and show it on our screens. And then there are behavioral properties that can be used to perform certain actions or triggers. So So what is PowerApps Component Libraries? So this is nothing but a container which basically holds all the components for us. We can discover and search for all the components available and publish updates for them, and also notify app makers about available component updates. So let's say we have a Power App and there is a component created in that app. So that will be referring as local component, and we are having multiple screens. So what we can do with components is we can just add the same components to multiple screens likewise. And with component library, what it helps us to work is like, see, since if we have multiple apps created, so component library helps us in sharing those components across all these multiple apps. So these are just a basic overview of these two ways of managing components. Further, we have PowerApps Code Component. So it's just infrastructure as code kind of solution which we can use to deploy components to solutions, and in turn we can just share the solution across environments. So if in case there is a use case of sharing components across various environments, then the code components can be leveraged there. So I think enough with the lots of this theoretical part. Let's get started and dive into some of the demos, which will be more interesting. So let me share my screen. Just a second. I think I shared the wrong screen. Let me know once Power App screen is visible. Portal screen. Can you see the screen, guys? Anyone can confirm?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, yes, we can.
Thanks. So let's start by creating a Canvas app. Let me name it GPP. So we'll be creating some of the, I will be basically demoing some of the use cases of components. So let's try creating one app in which we have multiple screens, and generally what we will have in our screens is we will be having some headers and some footers on the screen. So we'll try to create something like that. So let me insert a header banner. So this is just will act as a banner for us. Let me adjust height here only. Then we will have some banner for footer. Height. Okay. Then there can be some more components like we'll have home icon in our screen. So let's say we added a home icon to this header. Then there can be a text label to this, basically a header text, which we will be having to mention what screen we are in. Let's align it to center. So generally, this is how the way which we go about in creating header and footer, let's say. Let me copy the same label and add for footer as well. So these are few of the inputs that we have. So now what we would do generally to have this same thing on the other screen, we would go ahead and copy all these labels and add it to our other screen, right? So then again on this screen we will need those things. We'll add it. So here what's happening is we are trying to create a UI and have these things added in it. So you can see here if I want to change, let's say the banner color to something else, and so I have to go ahead and to each and every screen and keep on changing those colors, right? So we need some way to manage this centrally, like that's where component comes into picture. And here you can head into the components tab. In case if you can't see this in your uh, Power App, so you can go into setting and confirm if components is enabled for you. If these are enabled, then only you should be able to see this. Here in components tab, you can click on new component. This is basically creating the component for us. Let me adjust its dimensions to the screen that we have. Okay, let's rename this. It's always good to name our components. Valid naming conventions. And the things which we were using into multiple screen, we will just use those in this screen directly. Let's copy paste them here. So now what's happening is we have created a component which consists of all these fields. Now instead of all the these objects that we have added in these multiple screens, what we can do is we can just get rid of all of this. Basically, let's just remove these screens now since they are redundant and not created correctly. We'll add some blank screens. And here in the custom panel on the top, you can see the component that we have created just now. Also in the left panel, if you want to see, here is also one of the way where you can just import those into your screen. So now in our screen we have this header and footer added as a component. Similarly, we will add the same into multiple screens. So here you can see how it's easier and the things are managed centrally in this components field. So let's say you want to change the colors for the headers. You can go into components, change the colors or text, whatever you want, and those will be reflected in all the screens. So it's very efficient way to manage the objects in your apps. And you can see as well, like there are not lots of objects. We have only one component object which is consisting of all of this. So the lesser the number of objects, the more efficient the app is. So since all this Power App is working on a browser, so we should always look to minimize its load. So this is one of the way. Further, let's see what all features this component provides. So let's create one more component. And here you can see it has some of the custom properties option available in the panel. So what these properties are basically, if you go into a screen and see the drop down that we have here, so there are some properties available like height, width, and visible property. So these are called as properties. So what component is providing here is it allows us to create our own property for the components. So let's go into this. uh, let's create some, just a second. Yeah, we can use this only. uh, Create an input property. Let's say we will call it header text. Its name, the description for whatever we are creating the property for. Then there is what type of property you are importing, input or output. So let's say we will have it as input. The data types, there are number of data types to work with: text, number, boolean, any of this use case that fits your need you can use. Let's use text for now and create. Similarly, I will go ahead and create for footer text. Again, that will be an input property and of text type. And let's say we want to give an input of screen to this home button. We'll add a custom property for that as well. Uh, let's call it home navigation. So here we will select data type as screen since we want screen as an input for the navigation. Again, we are going to take the screen's name as input, so property type will be input. So right now these are the properties that we have created. So for components, if you go into the left drop down here, you can see those properties are mentioned here: header text, footer text, home navigation. So these properties can be used directly instead of just having plain text written over here. So you can go into this labels text property. Here you can see it's mentioned text. So you can replace this with the input that's going to come to your component. So let's use the component name dot the input that we have created. So let's call it header text. So this is basically replaced with the text that's going to come from header text input. Similarly, we'll keep the input for footer as well. It's just pass in the component name dot the property that you have mentioned. So this will replace the text coming from footer. Same thing for home screen. So we want this to navigate based on the screen that comes in. So on select of this, we will write navigate to the header and footer dot uh, what property we gave there. Just let me home navigation, right? Yeah, header and footer dot home navigation. So let's see how this basically can be used in our screens. So the same components are present here, and now you can see in the right hand side we have these properties available. So what you can do is you can just pass in the inputs like header text. So this is screen to header. So this will be populated here. Similarly, screen to footer. This is also populated here. Also for home navigation, you can have the screen names over here. So let's say for screen 3, we'll rename this to home. Uh, we'll use this home as home screen for us and just pass in the screen name home. Okay, and also similarly for screen 4, we'll pass in just filling in the property details. So now when I run this, you can see, since we have mentioned navigate property on this and we are passing the screen name, this will come to the second header screen. That's basically the home screen that we have inserted the navigation to. Yeah, so this is basically how input can be used for components. Similarly, we can have output properties as well. So let's create one new component. Rename this to output component. Let's create quickly a output property. So we'll create the property type as output. Let's keep it as a text only. So here in the component screen, let's add an input type, maybe of drop down will work for us. Okay. And also a label. So what we will do is we will just in the label we'll say we will mention uh, user selected value, and we will pass in the output property that we just created, output component dot user selected, right? And let's end with so this label will basically let us know what kind of input we are going to select in this. So um, so in the property of the output user selected, we can see here, we will replace this with this whole thing. So we don't have to basically write this to the label, but instead we can write it to the output property that we have created, right? And in the label, we can just use that output property. Okay, I think I'm some mismatch is happening. Yeah, sorry, I've looked it like this. This will be basically the label that we have. Label one dot text. I think I'm doing something wrong.
You meant to say drop down.
Yeah, right. Drop down dot selected text. Ah, always some happens. Let me just import uh, and show one of the component that I already created. This will allow me to demonstrate one other thing as well. Like we can import this via import the components that are created in other apps as well. So by importing this, so here I have already created output property similar to that. Uh, in our screens, let's import that output property. You can see the output property over here. What this will basically show us is whatever we are selecting in this drop down, this is populated here. So this is just the output property that it's using and showing us the output of the selected value. Um, yeah, these are some of the input output properties that we have. There is one key in feature that is also available to us is property called behavior. So for that, there are some settings that you have to go through. Like in settings, you can go into experimental one and enable this enhance component property. What this will allow you is to use some additional features that are provided, like uh, behavior option comes here. So this is just an experimental one right now, but can be used uh, for passing in actions. So let's see that in action. Let me add the behavior property here. So what this is doing is um, so in this behaviors properties, we have created a behavior property of user action. So here you can directly pass one action to this thing, like navigate to the screen option. So certainly still now what we saw is there are inputs that you can pass and outputs that you can get. But now you can also pass in actions like this to the buttons. So right now we are having action of navigate to screen 3. So let's go, like you can see on click of the button, we can navigate to screen 3 also. Yeah, just wanted to point out that with the enhanced component properties, you can also have uh, something like, let me just create and so parameters of option available. So here you can insert parameters for your components, like you want some inputs to be fetched, so you can mention those, then data types for the input that you want. If you want this parameter as compulsory field or not. So this is basically option of adding parameters to your screens, sorry, to your components. So that is also a key feature that you can use. uh, so that's about basic things that we can do with components. Let me quickly show you uh, about component libraries and how you can manage these components centrally. So you can just go ahead and create a component library. Let's let it open. In this component library, you can see you can create components similar to what we were creating there in our app. So these are just local components. Those scopes are limited to the one app. But what if you want to share those with multiple apps, then we can create a component library and use them. So that is just what component library is. So let me show you uh, how we can import it. So in the there is it's not the similar way how we import use this sorry this local components in the app. For component library components, there is some other way, that is we have to go into insert and do get more components. So here you can see the component libraries that are available to us. One good feature that comes with this is you can choose between components, and it's not necessary that you get all the components imported which you don't want. So let's say we just want adder, you can import individual adder component. And here in the library component section, you can see that component. And once you click on this, it gets added to your screen. Adder is added. So basically, I would suggest like get used to the component library and use it as much as you want, because this import export is basically in retired phase now. So the these features can discontinue soon. So it's good to be familiar with the component libraries and use that only. With this, I think I've covered some of the basic insights about components, and further we will deep dive into some advanced features. So I will hand it over to Krishna. Uh, Please, Krishna, you can take ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Pratik. Um, so we just saw the use of custom components to uh, minimize our efforts um, to uniform and bring uniformity to the app and bring make the app maintainable. Uh, but since these components are being created in the Power App, so it is bound to use the features which are only available in Power App itself. For example, if you want to create a component, just let me click on there. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Krishna.
Yes, it's visible.
Yes. So as we can see, we have this component. We are creating component, and we are having these features like for media, for charts and icons, and some AI builders, and from some of the features which are provided by Microsoft. But there comes a time when we need some features which are not actually present at all in our Power Apps ecosystem. Or some are available, for example this map, but it's like a premium version which we don't want a lot of feature of map to be implemented, just want to show the location. So what a code component can do is leverage the features of web technology, we create a web feature and just put create as a component and import it in our Power App. So first, I will just like to give some examples of like how to use the existing ones, and then if time permits, we will go to the code and how to create it. So first, I would like to say this is the site given by Microsoft. As a beginner, this is a place where everyone should visit, where you will get all the sample components, all the resources that are shared by community. You can just go ahead and um, visit and see which components we want. So in one of the scenarios when we were when we had got a chance to create a bot, just chat bot to interact with to just give client a FAQ question sets, that okay, yeah, we want you to just for some simple query you can go to the bot. So we wanted that bot to be present in the Power App. There was a method that we could use. We could create a custom component that had fixed set of questions, but that needed to be updated in the custom component itself. Or we could use Power Virtual Agent in our solution, but the thing was it was not shareable in Power App directly. As you can see, it's not giving that kind of options to us. So What we did is, thankfully, due to the power of code component, we got that feature. Let me just go to that component. Yep, this is one. So I would like to thank Yash Agrawal for creating this code component, and this is what we are going to use quickly and see how this has helped us. So we have to fork this and get this solution. What he has already done is given us a solution. That's one thing that we have seen, that how to see and search iframe or code components. There's one thing we need to learn here, that unlike other components which could be shared over apps, which could be shared over component libraries, our code components can only be retrieved through solutions. So whenever we create a code component, we need to create a solution and import here, and then it could be used as a component in our Power App. So I will just go ahead. I have already downloaded it in my on my system. Let me just go ahead there. So here are the solutions, the zip file of the solutions, and I have already imported it, but just let me do it again. It's just as simple as this. There's another method as well. We'll just look at it in the end of the session. So as you have seen, this is already installed in my solution, so I will not go ahead with that. Now if I want to use this component in my solutions, say for example, I want to add the FAQs in my Power App screen. So as the same method shown by Pratik, we need to go to this option for get more components and look for here. And now we see that we don't get an option. Even if I refresh it, I don't see any option that where to get the code component from here. So there is a setting in the admin center of the Power App that needs to be handled. Uh, I would just share the path to that location later on, or let me just show it in the video. I will go to the admin center. We choose the environment where we want to enable this feature in settings, and we want to look for features. And we need to enable this feature, allow publishing a canvas app with code components. Here precaution message from Microsoft. You will see in the documentation that since we are using code components, we are fetching code from outside Microsoft, um, which are not you can say which are not handled by Microsoft. There is no security guarantee given. So whenever you try to fetch code components from online resources, just be cautious on that. Now since it is on, I will just go again and refresh my So now if I go to the get more components, now you can see here we have an option for code. As you can see the message, custom components contain code that may not be generated by Microsoft. So we need to be sure that we are getting from the trusted source, and I will import it. And you see here we get an option for code component, and we see from the component which we have picked it up. So in the source what we needed was so this is basically what it is an iframe. So whatever is embeddable into an iframe, that can be given as a source here. So if I go to my channels, and if I see to get an embedded code or embedded URL for this chatbot, and if I can see the source here, which is inside the iframe, as you can see. If I'm going too fast, please tell me to stop somewhere. We have picked this up. Okay, so if we just play it, I think I have to decrease size. Just okay. So now you can see we have a chatbot in our Power App, which was not actually possible through direct channels. If I say it's, yep, it works. Similarly, there is another use case. For example, as I mentioned that you don't want full feature that is available here, even if you pay for it using this map feature. You just want to have one map location to be shown, so you can just import another component which is just explicitly showing the locations. I will just go ahead. It is in another iframe. It is just created explicitly for Bing Maps, so that you can have a free look at the locations. Just so as I mentioned that anything that can be embedded, we need its URL, but that's specifically for map. What we need its location. And if I play it, it should, oh yeah, there is a height value which I should give it to 400, just for example. You should be able to see the map. Okay. Or I can just see from here width value is. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, there you have two examples of components that I just picked it from here, and this is how you can also approach um, in the like how to add this code components in our Power App. Just one thing to remember, that we need this feature to be enabled. This is just, let me refresh, this feature to be enabled so that the environment that has this Power App can use those component features. So I will just, I think we don't have enough time to just go through the whole code component creation process. I will just share this links to you, where you can just go ahead and create your first code component in the Power App. But nonetheless, we can just get you started on this. What I had done on beforehand, from these resources which Microsoft provides, I had pulled all the files and just open one of the projects, so that, let me just take you through that process again. Let me just give. So these are the set of sample components which has been given by Microsoft. Let me just show you where are the sample components. These are the sample components you can use. These are the steps also given in the sample components. Just go ahead. This had I already fetched, and I have already opened one of the projects from here. This is Canvas grid. Let me just go to the terminal and quickly start this process. It is very much similar to any Node.js project. So what we have here is a package.json. So what it will help is, if we go and run npm install, it will fetch all the Node.js uh, packages for this Canvas grid. Let's hope this is completed quickly. By the time, if you have any questions, you can post it in the chat.
There are some questions probably if you'd like to answer, I can read it out. Are the code component responsive by nature?
No, they are not responsive by nature. We have to maintain them in the code.
Okay. Someone asked, is this a premium feature? But I think Pratik already answered, it is not a premium feature.
No, it's not a premium feature. It's just that it has some requirements at the admin center which has been shown, and that's need to be enabled. So even if we export it and import it into the client side, so then they also need to have this feature enabled, or else those components will be removed automatically.
Okay, thank you. There is one more question. Yeah, probably Pratik answered that. Can we embed SPFX web part? Yeah, probably using iframe we can do that. But authentication won't work, right? Because the authentication of in SharePoint would be different than the Power Apps. So within that frame itself, probably we would have to log in again or something.
Yeah, that's correct. Anything that can be embedded, for example, as you mentioned, SharePoint web parts or SharePoint sites as well. Or there is one more example, normal for creating a dashboard. So for one of the projects had this when uh, we had to create a dashboard to see the Azure status. This could be even imported into the iframe. It's just where is that? The thing is, just we need to make some changes in the code to increase its width. So you can see the web is available here. Website. Let me just play. You can use this. Similarly, now we have all these modules installed. Now, as mentioned that the code has to go through the solution. We have to import it into the solution so that it can be used in the Power App. So we need to create a solution first. And for the solution, we have this documentation, which is actually a part of Microsoft Power Platform CLI. You can use this commands. I will just use the commands given here. So what it says is you need to create a solution. For the solution, we are creating a separate folder. Um, and we are in that solution. Now we need to create a solution. So that is just quickly I will go ahead. I will just there is a catch here. The name of the prefix should not be less than 2 and more than 8. So I will just go ahead and just set not just simple, what I could say it canvas grid. So CG simple, and here it can be any publisher name you can give. Just given it my name. The solution is created. Now what we want this solution, you can see if I refresh this, you can see this folder is created. In this folder these solutions are there: customization, relationships, and solution. Now we want this solution to uh, actually solution to to target this file PCF, means any target the folder which contains this file PCF project. So just copy. We are in the same solution folder right now. So here is one thing: some might face issues while using this double dot slash. In some cases it might be in such structure, but you will get the message properly what is to be done. Now we have created the solution. Now we need to pack it, create a zip file that which is very much similar that we used. So we have an ms build. As you can see, it shows ms build. I'll just copy here, and this will not work. I'm sure, because it is not recognized. For this, what is said online, that we need to set it as a environment variable, but it is not best practice. So we will just go ahead and use this uh, location file just to just we are following some best practices here. Nothing. And the build will start.
Just a
Yeah.
quick time check. We have 4 minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's it. We'll just, this is, as you can see, when this command is running, you will see your bin folder and debug And when this is completed, you should be able to see a zip file which we used to import in this solution. uh, I hope that is done. um,
I think I will surely share the links for
a
this
screenshot. Yes.
documentation so everyone can go ahead and do these steps. Uh, we can take questions meanwhile, if anyone has any more questions. Uh,
Yeah,
Yes,
since
yeah,
yes,
there are
Krish.
some questions.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. From one tenant to another, yeah. So I think so this is how we can use these code components to import it from one tenant to other. So just use these components to import in solution, and then the solutions can be shared between different tenants. So
Yep.
yeah,
You
that's
can
one thing.
just take this solution and you can, I think, export it as well. Right? No. Yes. Is it outside?
Yeah, that three dots are ahead of that solution.
No, you got it here. Option export.
Yeah.
So I think it might take. Oh, it is done. I know you can say this is zip file. You can edit in the solution. If it is successful, then yeah. That's it from me. I think I've taken one more minute. Uh, thank you everyone.